Recently, a Shanghai netizen shared a report about an incident that occurred late at night on November 20th. The Chinese military sent a large number of soldiers to the East Sea Fleet's Shanghai base, forcibly reclaiming welfare housing from retired military personnel. This action sparked protests and unrest among the veterans and their families, leading to clashes between the two sides. The soldiers used shields to push back family members, deployed military vehicles, and even forcibly removed furniture. Elderly people, some of them in their 70s and 80s, were reportedly shoved to the ground. One online user commented that it was more intense than a battle. Earlier, retired military personnel at the Shanghai base had received a notice on October 27th informing them that they had to vacate their apartments by November 20th. Those who didn't comply would have their housing reclaimed by the authorities. A video that surfaced on October 31st showed individuals in black clothing and camouflage uniforms going to the apartments of the retirees, pouring glue into the locks, sealing doors, and taking photos. Sources revealed that the welfare housing, initially allocated to retirees by their former units and approved by the logistics department, has now been reclassified as military housing, forcing the retirees to leave. The military used harsh methods like cutting off water and electricity and welding shut the doors. Over 1,000 retired personnel, including some of higher rank, were affected by this. In early November, retirees and their families held protests with banners at the Navy's Shanghai base, and some gathered outside the Navy's first guest house, holding up white paper with the phrase, "Honorless Home." A video showed large numbers of police and security officers arriving at the scene, arresting and beating people. Elderly individuals were knocked to the ground, and there were multiple clashes. Some protesters were reportedly choked and cursed at by officers. It was revealed that the retirees had been living in the apartments for 20 years. Now the authorities are evicting them under the pretext of family occupation. Similar incidents have been reported in cities like Shanghai, Qingdao, and Beijing. For those who don't want to leave, they are being asked to pay a rent of 5,000 yuan per month. On November 4th, a user on the X platform shared that the Chinese Veterans Association is organizing a protest in Beijing ahead of New Year's to oppose the new veterans resettlement regulations. The protest urges veterans from all over the country to join and support the cause. The statement issued by the association urged the authorities to address the concerns and correct the situation quickly. It warned against methods like intimidation or suppressing the voices of protesters. One netizen remarked that retired military personnel have been pushed to the bottom of society for years and are often mistreated by police. Some even openly stated that they want to deal with the veterans. Another person pointed out that the Chinese Communist Party fears action from the military, including retired soldiers, because they're disciplined, well-organized, and have real combat experience. The protest, organized by the Veterans Association in Beijing, has reportedly caused significant concern among the authorities. On December 5th, an X-platform user shared information from domestic dissidents, claiming that the atmosphere on the streets of Beijing now resembles that of a martial law situation. The whistleblower stated, "I just returned home from the North 3rd Ring Road. I went to Liuying Park for a walk, and on my way back, the streets were filled with black-clad personnel, more numerous than pedestrians. They were along the central axis, with the most concentrated presence at the General Political Department entrance and Gulou Road. It was even more frightening than June 4th, a deadly atmosphere. We got off the bus at Gulou Bridge West, and as soon as we got off, we were guided into an underpass and directed south toward home. When we reached the exit of the underpass, we were directed to Gulou Road. We were not allowed to stop or look around. As we entered Gulou Road, the anti-riot barricades opened a small gap just to let the two of us go through and go home. I'm not sure what the situation is." Also on December 5th, a video emerged online showing heavy security at the entrance of Beijing's Xicheng District Fuxingmen First Primary School. During dismissal time, the school gate was surrounded by 2 rows of metal barriers and a line of anti-collision bollards near the street, creating a restricted zone. Surveillance cameras were reportedly installed near one set of barriers. Inside the restricted zone, several security guards and police officers were stationed on either side. 2 military personnel camouflage stood guard at the entrance, possibly armed. The man filming the video remarked, "What's going on? Now the People's Liberation Army is standing guard during elementary school dismissal?" Another video showed that more than one primary school in Beijing had military personnel stationed at the entrance. This particular video was filmed at Beijing's Dongcheng District Dengshiko Primary School's North Pool campus during school hours. It appeared to show a mom dropping off a child while filming at the school gate. The video showed that the entrance was also cordoned off by mobile barriers, and parents were not allowed to enter. Inside the barrier were two women wearing red armbands, several police officers and security guards, and an anti-riot steel fork leaning against the wall. On one side of the gate, two military personnel stood guard. It is currently unclear whether all Beijing primary and secondary schools have military personnel stationed. Some netizens speculate that schools with military personnel may be attended by children of military officers or high-ranking officials. The heavy security at school gates has led to mockery from netizens. Some comments included, "Living in constant fear," "the safest country in the world," and "a big prison, it's nothing new. This is how prisons secure safety, right?" Another added, "It's always the same when the economy declines and society becomes unstable." On November 19th, a video showed that security guards were stationed outside multiple schools in Beijing, including at the entrance of the prestigious Renmin University affiliated school, where special police officers were assigned. Two photos were shared online, one showing heavy security at the entrance of Yar Hutong Primary School in Beijing's Xicheng District. The photo, presumably taken during school hours, showed a security guard welcoming students and staff, with two police officers stationed at the gate, one with a police dog. Another photo shared special police officers patrolling outside the gate of Renmin University-affiliated school in Haidian District, near the Zhongguancun Technology Park. The photo appeared to have been taken at a time with fewer people outside the school gate, suggesting a low traffic period. Some netizens speculated that police forces are being stationed outside the gates of all schools in Beijing, but the level of security varies. Renmin University-affiliated school, which has more than 10 branches across Beijing, is rumored to be attended by many children of political and business elites, leading some to call it a school for the privileged. On October 28th, a violent incident occurred outside the gate of Zhongguancun 3rd Primary School in Haidian District, when a middle-aged man attacked students with a knife, injuring at least 5 people, including 3 primary school students. Netizens revealed that many of the students at the school are also children of the elite. Recently, random violent incidents have been reported across China, including a stabbing at the Wuxi Vocational Institutes of Arts and Technology on November 16th that left dozens wounded, and a vehicle attack on November 19th at Yong'an Primary School in Changde, Hunan, which killed or injured at least 10 people. The Chinese government has been extremely nervous, issuing multiple directives to strengthen security. However, many commentators believe that the root cause of these frequent random attacks lies in China's economic downturn and widespread injustice under the Chinese Communist Party. Strengthening security is seen as a temporary measure that won't solve the underlying problems. In recent days, there have been signs of a shift in how the public is responding to the Communist Party's oppression. Some protest groups have abandoned the hope that the government will solve their problems and have begun targeting law enforcement officers and even the police forces themselves. This represents a breaking point for the Communist Party, which may find this a source of significant fear. On December 5th, a netizen named Luo Xiang shared a report on the X platform stating that a Chinese official in Chaozhou, Guangdong, was attacked and stabbed on the evening of December 5th, and their home was subsequently set on fire. The details of casualties remain unclear. Additionally, reports have emerged of bank customers in Henan province staging protests at local police stations. Since they can't access their funds in Beijing or Zhengzhou, they are resorting to going to their local police stations to demand assistance. In response, the police are providing them with boxed meals, likely to prevent them from resorting to extreme actions out of desperation. The Henan Bank Depositor incident refers to a financial scandal that began on April 18, 2022, when 4 rural banks in Zhengzhou, Henan, suddenly shut down online withdrawal and transfer services without warning. This left depositors unable to access their funds. The incident triggered widespread panic and led to several large-scale protests and rights movements. The China Banking and Insurance Regulatory Commission attributed the crisis to collusion between internal and external shareholders of the banks. Reports suggest that the scandal involved at least several hundred billion yuan, with around 400,000 depositors still unable to retrieve their money. Netizens commented, "If you can't make the government afraid, then you can't make the government respect you." How does the government usually intimidate rights activists? By sending people to arrest them, threatening their families, jobs, businesses, deleting posts and blocking accounts, using black courts, black jails, and making up charges. Since the government has already torn the mask off and declared war on the people, it's only natural for the people to think about how to retaliate. Currently, there are rumors circulating about the power struggles within the CCP, with many analysts believing that President Xi Jinping has been losing power and is on the verge of stepping down. Recently, Xi's sudden shift in tone, which some view as an attempt to back down, has also drawn attention. Reuters reported on December 4th that the Chinese government has set a 5% growth target for 2024. However, due to the ongoing real estate crisis and massive local government debt, China's economic growth has weakened significantly. In the first 3 quarters of this year, China's GDP grew by 5.3%, 4.7%, and 4.6%, averaging around 4.8%, which failed to meet expectations. On the same day, the CCP's mouthpiece, People's Daily, published an article stating that China does not evaluate its economy based solely on GDP growth and does not insist on achieving specific growth rates. It even explicitly stated that a growth rate below 5% is acceptable, as China prioritizes reasonable growth over speed worship. It's well known that the CCP has historically falsified financial data, and even with this manipulation, it couldn't achieve the originally set 5% target, which suggests the actual GDP figures are likely far worse. This failure leaves Xi Jinping, who has previously presented himself as a strong leader, in a difficult position, especially given the internal power struggles within the CCP. His inability to meet the economic growth target is a significant setback for him. This display of weakness only highlights the CCP's increasingly pessimistic outlook on the future economic situation. Facing domestic turmoil, Xi is also feeling anxious and defeated about international relations, particularly in light of Donald Trump's policies. Reports from U.S. media have revealed that Xi is still seeking ways to engage with Trump. On November 25th, Trump announced on social media that on January 20th, his first day back in office, he would impose a 25% tariff on all products coming into the U.S. from Mexico and Canada, as well as products from countries with open borders. Additionally, he said that he would impose a 10% tariff on all Chinese products entering the U.S. until China stopped exporting drugs to America. As soon as Trump issued this warning, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau flew to Florida to meet with Trump to discuss border security and trade deficits. Soon after, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum also spoke with Trump about tariffs and illegal immigration. So far, the CCP has not taken any public action in response. On December 4th, the Wall Street Journal's chief China correspondent Wei Ling published an article highlighting that has yet to find a suitable way to engage with Donald Trump. The article mentioned that despite the Chinese government secretly trying to establish contact with Trump's team, including actions by former and current Chinese officials such as Cui Tiankai, their efforts to approach Trump's inner circle have largely been unsuccessful. China wants to clarify the true purpose of Trump's tariffs. Is it to get China to buy more American products, or is he truly determined to decouple? A Chinese expert on foreign policy stated that China is adopting a defensive strategy in response to Trump's tariffs. Moreover, Chinese manufacturers might attempt to reroute products to third countries, as they did after the first trade war. However, Trump has vowed to impose tariffs on those third-party countries as well. Additionally, global resistance to cheap Chinese products could make this strategy much harder for Beijing to implement. Amid these internal and external pressures, the article discusses why Xi Jinping has deployed the military in Shanghai, a highly sensitive area, to seize military-related assets. Analyst Mr. Y from Shanghai speculates that this could be Xi Jinping's final attempt to send a signal to opposing forces. Shanghai has historically been a significant power center for the Chinese Communist Party, second only to Beijing. The Cultural Revolution, initiated by Mao Zedong in Shanghai, and the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests, which were sparked by an incident in the World Economic Herald in Shanghai, were pivotal events in Chinese history. After the Tiananmen crackdown, there have been no major protests in China's first-tier cities until the White Paper movement broke out in Shanghai 2 years ago. The recent mysterious death of former Premier Li Keqiang, who was closely associated with opposition factions to Xi Jinping, further raised suspicions about Xi's motivations. Shanghai is a stronghold of the political forces opposed to Xi, including factions from the Jiang Zemin era. Events in Shanghai have always been closely watched by Xi Jinping. The current action in Shanghai, involving the military confiscating veterans' housing, is unprecedented. Mr. Y believes that despite Xi's anti-corruption efforts to eliminate rival factions within the military, he has never fully controlled the armed forces. This is because Xi has struggled to find trusted military leaders with the necessary authority and stature to exert control. The recent purging of high-ranking military officers who were personally promoted by Xi has left him in a vulnerable position. Deploying the military in Shanghai to seize assets for military families is seen as a sensitive move, potentially signaling Xi's final desperate attempt to assert power. However, Mr. Y concludes that, no matter how hard Xi tries, the ultimate outcome is already determined. In his effort to defend the Communist Party's rule, Xi will ultimately be brought down along with it.